What's up, people, and welcome back to another edition of the Leo G Show. I am Leo G, man, and podcasting is what we do. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties here, man, but hopefully tonight we'll get this all settled, all squared away. We did a test run, so hopefully we can get this back out to the people and do what we do and do what we love to do, man. So none other, I'm gonna go ahead and start the show off right. I got to introduce the people that's on the marquee now, man. I'm gonna kick it over to none other than my man Banks is in the building tonight on this late night edition of the Leo G Show. What's going on, Banks?
What's going on, Leo G? How you feeling, brother?
Man, I'm feeling all right, man. I'm feeling good, man. About to do another edition of the podcast, man. On the late night tip, it's all good, man. We got a little something in our cup, and we doing it late, man. This is like the best we can do from a scheduling standpoint, since everybody's schedule goes all over the place. But it's all good, man. So give a shout out to the next person up on the podcast, and that's my man Derrico. Derrico, what's going on, man? Everything good, man? Are we good on your end?
Yes, sir. On my end, y'all can hear me. I can hear y'all. So we good. What's up, Leo
Okay,
G?
man. I'm in the building, man. I can't call it, dude. We doing another podcast on the late night. Got a lot to talk about tonight in the world of sports, especially here in Atlanta and the Southeast, man. We're gonna talk about what we talk about. We just gonna get right into it. So first and foremost, man, we've been doing this late night. We tried to do another show on last week, man, where we did it on the late night tip. That's why my energy is kind of low, and I'm trying to give y'all this kind of midnight, radio host vibe. I don't know, man, but the energy levels are a little low, man. It's late. So I'm gonna go around first. So we do the YouTube channel. We've been doing the YouTube channel for a minute where we showcase, everybody what they have on, but we'll do a little something different. I'm gonna go to Derrico first. I don't know if you got something sitting there ready to show everybody what you got sipping on. Do you?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. We'll show
I
everybody what
mean,
you got sipping on, man. What you
so I
sipping on,
mean,
man?
they see the bar in the background, so I got something. So today is that Johnny Walker Black Label 12-year age that I'm sipping on tonight.
Johnny Walker Black Label. That's what's up, man. You know what I'm saying? That's some good stuff right there, man. Good stuff. That's what we sipping on the late night tip. So, Banks, I'm gonna go over to you, man. I don't know if you. I know you always keep something in that red solo, dog. And shout out to Banks. For first and foremost, man, you got to get by and get your gift from Derrico. Derrico gave us some gifts a while back, and you still hadn't picked it up, but it's all good, man. You'll get over here and get them for a second. You want to tell everybody what you're sipping on tonight, man? What you got?
I'm keeping it real simple tonight, fellas. I'm in my trusty red cup. It's never let me down. I still rocking the Crown Apple. Bottoms up, brothers.
The bottoms up on the Crown Apple, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Banks over there getting lit, man. Y'all should have, man. If we could have really got out the last episode was lit because Banks was on one, man. We ain't gonna get into it. We gonna talk about it. We gonna keep that on the low. So look, man. A lot of people have hit me up on the show, man, on social media. They see us with the cups, man. And they ask us, "Hey, man, what you be drinking on, man? We see you sipping on something over there every time y'all do the show." So if you didn't know, man, I'm kind of a connoisseur when it comes to now. I've gotten into bourbons, and me and Derrico, we talk about this quite a bit. Banks, maybe we'll wheel you in here one of these days. I know you like what you like, but maybe we can get you to cross the street on over here to these fine delectable bourbons that we've started to get on here lately, man. So tonight, um, to wind down, man, I'm not doing anything big, man. I got a little Buffalo Trace, man. Shout out to Buffalo Trace. Got a little Buffalo Trace bourbon. I got it neat in my nice Braves tumbler. Shout out to my man Derrico, man, for blessing me with that. But I'm actually going to start showcasing some of the stuff that I'm getting in the collection, and I'm starting to get. So tonight, I tried to showcase it last week, but it didn't work out. But I'm gonna go ahead and showcase it again, and I'm gonna let Derrico ride me on when I'm gonna open the bottle. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I'm gonna showcase my Blanton's bourbon that it took me a while to find, man. This is a special bourbon, man, that I had been looking for quite some time. If you don't know anything about it, I say Google it. Um, it's a hard to find bottle. I'm still working on trying to get Derrico one. Banks, I can put you on the wait list if you really want to get down with this stuff, man. It's supposed to be really, really good, but I'm not gonna crack. As you can see, the seal has not been cracked. I'm trying to wait on a special occasion to crack the seal. So it's Blanton's the original single barrel bourbon whiskey. If you can get you some, get you some. If you know us, if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the bottles I got in the collection. And hopefully here in the near future, I'll be able to showcase some more of the stuff that I got in the collection to sip on. Derek, what you got for me, brother?
I just thought about a good time to pop that. When you find my bottle, that's when you can pop that one. That's a
Hey, man.
celebration.
Hey, that might be a celebration, man. When I find when I find you one, then we'll pop one. That might work out. Either that, or we'll wait on one of these Atlanta sports teams or Georgia sports teams to do something, man. And then we'll talk about it tonight because I think we might have somebody that might be a little close. I don't want to jinx it. Somebody might be a little close. But Banks, how you feel about the bourbon game, man? You want to roll with me and Derek on
Oh,
this hard to find bourbon
absolutely.
game?
Absolutely, brothers. I'm trying to figure out why y'all leave me out in the loop and all this stuff. Like, I can't be grown too. I can be grown too.
And didn't nobody say you weren't grown. We know you grown. We can look at you and tell you grown. But yeah, we're gonna get you into it, man. So the thing is, man, for the last couple of years, man, I've been trying to get into collecting these bourbons, and like I said, I'm on Buffalo Trace tonight, which is really really smooth. But some of the stuff that's hard to find, I kind of been on the wild goose chase, and me and Derek talked about it off air, trying to find stuff, man, and that Blanton's was something that I had been looking for a minute, and I was finding. Shout out to the plug that was able to get it to me, and I'm trying to get some to my man Derek Cole. So maybe on the next week I'll showcase another bottle, and we can go from there. So let's get into the show, fellas. Let's get into the show. We got a nice one to get into. This past weekend was crazy. So tonight, as we record this show, this past weekend in sports was just absolutely insane. Not only for the city of Atlanta, but just all the way around. So we're just gonna get into it. Banks, man, crazy sports weekend with college football, man. And one of the most exciting things that happened, and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about the ramifications of what happened, is there was a certain team that actually took a huge L. Banks, do you want to elaborate on what we saw this past Saturday and what team took this huge L?
That will be the Crimson Tide. Alabama folks, I'm sorry, but you got to hold that L. It's funny when the rabbit got the gun. You guys are quiet as a mouse. When you guys win, you go in. You all lose, y'all some fools. So I look at it like this. It's fun. You know what I'm saying? Hold this L, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? We still going to see you in Atlanta. Don't get it twisted. We will see you. But just know it's y'all turn to put the egg on your face.
We don't want to get too far into it, man. But yeah, man. So the mighty Crimson Tide takes a L down there in Texas, man, against Texas A&M, 41-38, the final score. The disciple finally beats the master. Wow, man. Jimbo Fisher finally. This is the first time. So this is a historical event. If you didn't know, people, from the Nick Saban coaches tree, there are a lot of coaches that now are head coaches in college football and have been head coaches for quite some time. I want to say there are about 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. Off the top of my head, I know Jimbo Fisher, Kirby Smart. There are several others. Derek, you might be able to tell us a few more. But in the last several years, none of them have been able to beat Nick. This is the first time. And it was very, very funny because there was a lot going into this. And I think Jimbo Fisher made the statement that before Nick Saban retired, that he was going to make him take a L. And Nick Saban tried to dance around it in the voice. He was like, take a L in what? On the golf course? What? I'm not taking an L where? But hey, Jimbo Fisher handed him the L. Derek, man, how significant, first and foremost, was it to see Alabama take this L in the way that they did, man? And how significant was it for Jimbo Fisher, former coach in that Nick Saban tree, to actually finally put that L on him?
I mean, it's nothing like being the first one to beat the great Nick Saban off of that coaching tree. I mean, Jimbo, we all know is a good coach. He won a national championship with Florida State. So, he felt pretty good about that. I just think the significance of that loss, it sets Georgia up to be the next SEC team to go out there and try to win that natty. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to go out this year and do your thing. This is like probably the best opportunity for Georgia in a while to go out there and take that thing. And like Banks said, we will see them in the SEC championship game, and they will not go to the NCAA tournament if they got 2 L's. I'm sorry, they just won't. So Alabama, hey, it's okay. Y'all spread the glory, spread the love. Don't be jumping out the tree talking about fire Nick Saban now. I mean, that's what y'all do when y'all lose. Y'all want to fire Nick Saban. That is
Man,
dumb talk.
Nick Saban ain't going nowhere, man. I know Nick Saban probably jumped up and down on top of that desk when they got back to Tuscaloosa and told everybody to turn in them Charger keys, turn in them Challenger keys, them Hellcat keys. They were on his desk. Oh, now let me stop, man. Let me get but yeah, man, Alabama takes a huge L, man. And speaking of Georgia, man, so for what it's worth, Georgia goes down to the Plains to face Auburn, man. And man, they didn't disappoint either, man. Banks, I'm coming back over to you here, man. Man, look, Georgia is convincing me. Like I was kind of in my feelings about Georgia. You know what I'm saying? We always had these talks about where we feel like these teams should be and how Georgia has been over the last several years and when are they gonna take that leap. But going into, these 6 games, man, Georgia has been nothing short of living up to the expectations that have been put on them with having these top recruiting classes. And for the most part, man, this defense, my God, man, this defense has showed up and showed out, man. They went down to Auburn and put a beating on them, 34-10 down there. So Banks, man, earlier in the season, we talked, I was like, I'm not impressed. I'm a Georgia fan first and foremost. I was in my shell. Now I'm out. I think now it might be time to put the flags on the car. I think it might be time to go ahead and pull up Ticketmaster or call your ticket broker and find out how much these tickets going to be to the SEC championship, man. Because I think Georgia is now on their way to doing what they need to do to get to, number one, Atlanta to the SEC championship and then punching their ticket to the college football playoff.
Totally agree with you, brother. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Auburn. Congratulations on your touchdown. You are one of the only teams this year that scored a touchdown on the first unit defense. I got that out the way. This defense of Georgia is ignorant, not ignorant, ignorant. It is to the point where I've never, in my fanhood of Georgia Bulldogs football, that I ever seen a defense this potent. And it's incredible to see that we're fans are actually to the point where we are upset when a team scores on us. Like, that is our worst thing that can happen to us. Oh my God, they scored. They scored on us. I mean, that's how good can you have to be when that's your biggest issue is when a team score on you. Unbelievable.
You're on mute.
My apologies. Yeah, I did it to myself. So yeah, we've seen Georgia have great teams over here over the last several years, man. Over the last several decades, but just have never been able to cross over into chasing that thing, man. It's been over 40 years since Georgia has set themselves up for a national title and won one. I take that back. A couple of years ago, we played Alabama for a national title, and we ended up coming up short. But this year, man, it's something about this Georgia team, man, that really, really has everybody here excited and all the Georgia fans excited. This defense is playing lights out. Hopefully they can carry over. So really, really quickly, we'll talk about what's coming up here next for Georgia. If I'm not mistaken, guys, and I don't want to
Kentucky, baby.
Kentucky. Is it this coming weekend as we record this show? Is this Saturday? So this Saturday, coming as we record this show, we got Kentucky and Athens, 2 undefeated teams. Homecoming for Georgia. Right now, Kentucky is ranked number 11, coming off a big win over LSU. And, Kentucky, shout out to my man, Big Rob, because he's a big Kentucky fan, man. But look here, man, we not friends this weekend, dog. We got to handle our business, man. We got to put Kentucky back in their place. And, y'all a basketball school. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't belong here in this football conversation. We're gonna put it, we gonna put y'all to the test when y'all come up to Athens this weekend, man. Derico, how do you feel about this matchup going into because Kentucky beat Florida, if I'm not mistaken, in the swamp. They just took on LSU. They just beat them. They're feeling really, really good. They're about to come into Athens. How do you feel about this matchup coming up here Saturday?
Hey, this not gonna be an easy game. I think folks think it's gonna be an easy game, but it's gonna be a good game the first half. And then after the first half, like you said, we're gonna show them that hey, this still the real SEC when Georgia plays Kentucky. There's a reason they schedule y'all for homecoming. So don't get it twisted, Wildcat fans. There is a reason that you are the homecoming opponent. You might try to use that as motivation, but it's a reason they scheduled y'all for homecoming.
Bulletin board material, yeah, whatever. It's homecoming in Athens, and we got Kentucky up. Banks, it's Kentucky, man. How do you feel about this matchup, man? How do you feel about this number one? Because Georgia, I'm sorry, I failed to mention that Georgia is now ranked number one in the nation, the number one team in the nation, baby. How do you feel about this matchup with the number 11 team, Kentucky, as they roll into Athens for, like Derek Coach just said, for homecoming? How we feel about it?
Listen, like Derico said, this is Kentucky. They're going to play us tough. But if you look at it pound for pound, I mean, real talk, Kentucky, Georgia. I mean, yeah, they beat Florida. And by the way, it wasn't in the swamp. It was in Kentucky. Um, they beat LSU in Kentucky. You got to come between the hedges now. You know, all that Kentucky magic, that no. Mm-mm. We're coming off a big game in Auburn down there in War Eagle country. And we prevailed. You know, it was hostile environment for Stetson Bennett. Now he's coming home. I don't really know if he's going to play or not, but he's coming home. The defense is coming home. And I think the defense is going to be a little bit upset the fact that somebody actually scored on them. So, yeah. No, nothing taken away from Kentucky. You guys are a good squad. But I'm looking at Georgia, Kentucky. 5-star recruits, 3-star recruits. I think Georgia going to handle business.
Hey, and that's how it's supposed to be, man. We should be able to go in there and handle business coming up this Saturday. So, fellas, man, like I just said, man, Georgia now number one in the top 25 polls. I think here we got another week or two before we actually start to get the college football playoff rankings as we roll into the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. But as of right now, the AP top 25 poll, as I'm looking at it, Georgia sits at the top. Number 2, Iowa. Number 3 with Cincinnati. Number 4, Oklahoma. And number 5, Alabama. Some other notable people here in the top 10. Oregon with one loss. You got a Michigan State team that's 6-0. And you're also looking at a Michigan team that's 6-0. Damn, I didn't know that. Penn State just took a L to Iowa, who just moved up to number 2. I'm gonna go to you, Derico, man. How do you feel about how this top 10 is shaking out after this weekend's action? We know we just had the Red River Shootout with Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma came out on top of that one. So now we've had some shakeups here and a lot of one-loss teams here in the top 10. How do you feel about how this is all shaking out moving forward?
Well, when we recorded the last time, I gave my opinion on Iowa. I said that Penn State was going to beat Iowa. I did. The only reason why Iowa came out ahead of that game because Penn State starting quarterback got hurt. That's the only reason that Iowa won that game. So I'm not sure why the posters thought it was a good idea to put Iowa number 2. Like you said, it's a lot of Big Ten teams in that top 10, but they haven't played each other. So you still got some more games to play. So best believe that top 10 is going to change again this week. Ohio State out of the Big Ten is probably going to be still Ohio State. Michigan, until they prove that they can beat Ohio State, yeah. But my sleeper team, I said this before, in the Big Ten is Michigan State. Mel Tucker has that team over there playing some good football. And you know he's a defensive man, so that defense is on fire. So with that being said, I see a lot of movement before the Big Ten gets to the Big Ten championship. And I know a lot of people are going to slide off that top 10 list from the Big Ten.
Man, absolutely, man. I feel you on that, man. Hey, another really, really quickly before I give it over here to Banks, man, and talk about this and how he feels about it, man. I wanted to shout out one notable team that, you know, probably won't get a shot at the college playoffs, but I think it needs to be noted that there's a team ranked at number 15 that since they've actually had a football team
Don't say
up there in Conway. No, I'm not talking about Cincinnati right now, but I was going to get to that. But as a team, notably number 15, the number 15 ranked team right now that has been a pretty good football team since they even have had a team. I think they've only had their team for maybe the little bit better of a decade, and that's a team out of Conway, South Carolina. It's Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is 6-0 right now, sitting at number 15, and they have been blowing the doors off of people. They have been beating people. And right now, it's funny because with Clemson and South Carolina in that state, people are saying now that Coastal Carolina is the best team in the state of South Carolina. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Coastal Carolina right now, man, for being ranked number 15 and being 6-0 and just destroying people on their schedule. I know it's going to be a tall order for them to try to make their way up into, like, the top four to even get a mention. That's really a pipe dream for them. But I just wanted to give them some recognition. And I was going to talk about that team that you just mentioned in just a second. But right now I'm gonna kick it over to Banks and get his opinion on how he feels about this top 10 and where he sees everything shaking up and shaping out as of right now.
It's too early right now, Leo. Like Derico said, man, that that conference gotta play each other. You're talking about Big Ten. They got to play each other. Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State. It's you don't know who's gonna come out on top. I mean, it's too early, way too early. As for Cincinnati, I looked at their schedule. It looks like they can go ahead and run that table, and they'll be in that top four when it's all said and done. Oklahoma, just going by what they did against Texas. It was a thrilling game. It was the Red River shootout, and that's what it was, a shootout. But at the same token, Oklahoma's defense does not impress me at all. Like, they give up points as faster as McDonald's give out fries. So, I mean, it's really you can't really just sit there and say you got a dominant team in this top four. Top 10 maybe, but not this top four. It's up for grabs. The exception of number one.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of shakeups here, man, going into the rest of the season. It's quiet as it's kept, man. Alabama only dropped to 5. They were number 1. They dropped to 5 after taking the L from Texas A&M. But, I think, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, man. I think Alabama with a L on their record right now is still better than the 3 teams ahead. I think Alabama is a better team than Oklahoma, Cincinnati, and Iowa. I really do. I think that when it's all said and done, man, Alabama is going to fight their way back into the conversation of being in the college football playoffs. Derico, like you said, Derico earlier, man, having 2 L's on your schedule is a death sentence. So you can't afford to lose. If anybody knows the significance of what's happening right now, it's Nick Saban. Nick Saban understands and knows that, hey, this is it. We cannot afford to take another L, or we're not going to see another championship. And so this is it, man. This is it for Alabama going down the stretch. They're gonna probably have a team. Everybody is seeing red and saying, hey, can we do what we need to do to just knock Alabama completely out of contention for a title, because at this point, if Alabama can run the table, even if they can get to the SEC championship and win, obviously they're going to put themselves at the table to play for a college title. But everybody else on the rest of their schedule is saying, no matter what their record is saying, hey, if we give them this other L, this will be the first time Nick Saban has never been in the contention of a title hope since he's been at Alabama, which is crazy to me. But yeah, out of all those teams up there in the top 4, I think Alabama is still better than Oklahoma, Cincinnati, and Iowa. Going back to Cincinnati here, man, I want to say this much about Cincinnati before we move on. This Cincinnati team is very intriguing. As we know, last season, Cincinnati took Georgia to the wire in a game here that was played in Mercedes-Benz, I want to say in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Cincinnati, as quiet as it's kept, has been building a team up there. The one intriguing thing about Cincinnati is that since the inception of the college football playoffs, we haven't seen a team outside of the major, the Big 12s, your SECs, your ACCs. We haven't seen a team outside of the big conferences make it into the college football playoffs. We saw a UFC team a couple of years ago go undefeated and beat an uninspired Auburn team after they lost the SEC championship to Georgia, play at Mercedes-Benz, and they went undefeated under Scott Frost. That was the closest that we saw a team outside of one of the major conferences actually make a run toward trying to get into the college football playoffs. Now, I'm going to come to you, Derrico, because you said you started yapping about Cincinnati. Now, if Cincinnati runs the table and they do what they need to do in their conference, man, do you think they deserve a place at the table to prove themselves worthy of a national title shot?
If there are 2 one-loss SEC teams, and then there is a one-loss champion in the Big Ten, and if Oregon mess around and run the table, no. Absolutely not. I mean,
wow. So that
no, absolutely not. But I will say this. This is what I want them to do as far as a college playoff. If you expand this to an 18, at least 8 teams, I would love to see a team like Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina get in the tournament so that they can get the chance to upset one of those teams in that 18 playoff. But as far as them being undefeated and you got one-loss teams in these other big conferences, nah, I'm not buying it. Not so. I'm not going. No. I can't even front and say that I would want to see that just because they're undefeated. No.
I mean, but at some point, I think we have to see somebody. Like you said, either we go to the 18 playoff so we can actually get one of these at-large teams to get in there, man. Because these guys have been playing hard. Like I said, Coastal Carolina has. I didn't do a lot of research, but I wanted to shout them out. I don't think they've had their team for I know it hadn't been 20 years. And for them to do what they've done and for them to accomplish what they've been accomplishing up there, like I said, they've made themselves as the best team up there in South Carolina. Derrico, what you got for me?
Just I'm going to put it in perspective. Let's say Wake Forest goes undefeated in the ACC and win the ACC championship. Do they deserve to be in the top 4?
I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see how this all shakes out. They got that formula, that supercomputer up there that computes everything and puts everything into play. That's why it was so important for Cincinnati to take care of business against Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame is Notre Dame. But, Cincinnati ended up beating them, and they're keeping it rolling. And like Banks just said, man, the rest of their schedule is pretty much, hey, they control their own destiny. So they have to end up winning out, like you said, Derrico, in order to, because a lot can happen between now and the end of the season. Once we get to the conference championships, and if they can win out, go ahead.
That's why I say this year would be the perfect year for an expanded playoffs because there are 2 teams, and the rest are gunning to be the 3rd team. So this would be the perfect year for 18 playoffs because you don't know what's going to happen between the other 5 teams that are in that playoff because they're going to have that. I got to prove that we belong here, and they're going to knock somebody off. If we had an 18 playoff this year, they would knock one of these big conference teams off. I guarantee you that.
Hey man, like I said, I'm here for that. I'm here for that. I would love to see that, man. It's nothing more important and nothing more special to me to see parity, especially in college football. Because guys, when we grew up, man, we didn't see a lot of parity. We didn't see a lot of these small teams getting the opportunity to go against these big schools and the money that's bagged by these big schools, man. So yeah, I'm all for it to see a Coastal Carolina or Cincinnati get their place to see if they can, like you said, dethrone one of the big boys. So Banks, I'm gonna go to you with this here before we move on, man. Looking at this here, moving forward here with the Cincinnati's, and I mean Coastal Carolina has a way, we have to have a complete collapse before we see a Coastal Carolina get in there. But with the Cincinnati situation, man, would you, how do you feel about Cincinnati? Getting there and getting that seat at the table. How do you feel about that all shaking out, man?
I mean, I would love to see it, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about the big conferences like the SEC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, they play better teams than Cincinnati play in their whole roster. I mean, their whole schedule. I mean, you look at Cincinnati's schedule, you're like, they play a lot of high school teams, with the exception of Notre Dame. But I mean, you can't take that away from them. I get it. They can only play what's in front of them. I look at it like this, I draw a lot of scenarios in my head. Hypothetically, let's say Georgia lost to Alabama in the SEC championship. So you mean to tell me you're gonna put Cincinnati in before Georgia after Georgia on knocked the number 2, the number 8, the number 13, the number 11 team all year, and Cincinnati only did was just beat Notre Dame? That ain't right. So it's almost like you have to go ahead and expand this playoffs because it's someone's getting hosed. You can't keep beefing up. Not to mention we forgot about this account where the SEC is expanding with Texas and Oklahoma. So I mean, now this super conference now is SEC. You ain't gonna ever see a team like Coastal Carolina go in undefeated because somebody at SEC with one loss is gonna get in, bar none.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's essentially what we're moving toward. We're moving toward these super conferences being aligned, everybody moving into a position to where they'll be able to compete. And part of the reason why Texas and Oklahoma moved into the SEC was because they wanted to get back into, let's be real, Texas has not been a threat. It's that too. It's the money part of it too. But Texas has not been a threat to the national title for at least the last 10 years. And the reason why is because they're losing a lot of kids out of the great state of Texas to these SEC schools. Because number one, it's a better opportunity for them to land into the league. It's way more competitive than the Big 12 was. So now, Texas A&M, when they moved out, it was like, okay, wow, we need to try to figure out how we can land more recruits and get more money. And that's the end of the day. And another, as much as we crap on the Pac-12, man, I think that's hurt teams like USC for business. Derek Cole, I'm going to kick it over to you for just a second with that, man. USC, for as long as we have known, has been a team on the West Coast, man, that has been that team that say, hey, even though we play in the Pac-12, we can play with anybody in this country. We play with Big Ten, we play with SEC, we play with ACC, whoever you line up in front of us, we can play with them. And they have been, hurting over the last 5 to 6 years, man. You have not heard anything of USC. And this is one of those things where it's like, hey, man, we got to get back into the swing of things. Texas and Oklahoma already took their shot to move into the SEC. So now we got to see where we can get the Pac-12, where we can get these other divisions to say, hey, let's get back to what we know and what we used to be. Because, Michigan is probably hurting. That's another team that's in the Big Ten that's probably hurting for recruits and wants to get back up there and play at another level. How do you feel about that, man?
As far as USC, that's probably like the biggest surprise in college football, like for the last 10 plus years. But it goes back to stability. I mean, you can't keep changing your coach out every 2.5 years and expect there to be some stability in your program. And I think that's the biggest problem that's going on with USC. Everybody know that California, Texas, Georgia, Florida are the biggest athletes in the country. I mean, so with California being there, you know, something ain't right for kids to say, I don't want to go to USC. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem. Oregon used to be on top because Oregon used to be flashy. But again, stability in your organization, changing coaches, switching out coaches. I mean, folks just want some stability. And everybody know that the stability right now sits down there in Tuscaloosa. It sits in Georgia. You know, I'm just being
Yeah,
honest. You know,
yeah.
it almost was in LSU until old boy about to get run up out of there this year. You know what I'm saying? And it's all about a quarterback too. If you don't have the right guy behind center that can break you.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree totally, man. So it's a lot of stuff going on in college football right now. Wanted to touch on it, man. So very, very exciting time for college football. And we're gonna move forward, hopefully in the next episode, man, and talk about, the shakeups on the next go round, man. So guys, really, really quick. So we talked about initially going into the college football segment how Alabama took L's. So this is funny, man. Like the state of Alabama took L's all the way around. As we move into the next phase of the show, so like Alabama took a L, Auburn took a fresh L, Tuskegee took a fresh L to Morehouse. Shout out, I love Tuskegee, man. Shout out to Tuskegee, man. That's my adopted HBCU. But they took a fresh L to Morehouse, which has rarely happened over the last 85 years that they played against each other. Alabama A&M took a major L against Jackson State. Good God Almighty, man! Do never call out Deion Sanders and the Jackson State Tigers out there in Mississippi because they went to A&M, they went to Alabama, they went to Normal Alabama, Alabama A&M, and put just beat the living, I almost beat the living doodle out of the Bulldogs up there at A&M. I want to say they scored 65 points up there in Norman, Alabama this past weekend, man. Like, I don't even know, like, somebody in Alabama won, but the whole state of Alabama took L's. Somebody else from the great state of Alabama, from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, took L's. As we move on with the podcast, man. So we had boxing. We talk all sports here, guys, and I wanted to talk about a little bit of this that happened this past weekend. We want to talk about Tyson versus Wilder, Tyson Fury versus Wilder 3, right? And we know Wilder is from the great state of Alabama. He's from he's from Tuscaloosa. Banks, I'm gonna go over here. I don't know if you watched the fight, Banks, man, but we'll talk about it for a minute here, man. Deontay Wilder, man, God, man, he took a L Saturday night from the state of Alabama. So he fell in line taking L's with everybody else in Alabama. Did you see the fight, Banks? How do you feel about this?
I did not. I didn't catch anything about the fight. All I know is he just got knocked out. That's all I know. And that's an L.
Yes, he did get knocked out, man. Derico, I'm gonna bring it over to you, man, because I had to bring this up and I had to talk about it, man, because it's so significant and so fitting as to how Alabama. Everybody that was a sports fan around the country was probably tuned in to that Alabama Texas A&M game going down the stretch. And if you had to fight, you were looking at the prelims, you were probably going back and forth, before the main event came up, because that's what I was doing, man. I was saying, man, who gonna pull it out? Who gonna pull it out? Texas A&M pulls it out, and it's funny because as soon as Texas A&M pulled that out, we go right into round one. Ding, ding, ding. Here we go with Wilder versus Fury. So, man, let's talk about it. Wilder takes an L. This is a crazy fight, man. Tell me, Derico, what's up with this fight, man?
Well, let me say this. First of all, this is probably one of the best fights I've seen in some years. Even though
heavyweight fight.
No, I'm talking about fight, period, in the last 7 years.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Everything else is dancing. These cats fight. They was fighting. Dante came out with a plan. with the body shots, body blows, bam, bam, bam. He got in the fourth round. He knocked Tyson Fury down twice. To me, the referee, like everybody that saw the fight, was kind of slow on them 10 counts or 8 counts. But at the same time, he should have just knocked him out where it been in no discussion. I mean, he should have just ended it in the fourth round. He put so much energy in that fourth round. After the fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, I didn't think he was going to get past the seventh round after that. Because Fury came back after taking them 2 knockdowns and was putting hands on Dante left and right. Deontay, left and right. I mean,
I,
left and right.
I will say this much, man. You know, you go back to looking at the first fight and then the second fight, man. You know, shout out. You know, I'm gonna say this much, man. You know, Tyson Fury he ain't no punk, man. You know what I'm saying? This man, you know what I'm saying, went to war, man. And this fight come right here, like you said, man. There was a plan, there was a strategy, obviously, in the Wilder camp that hey, you know, you gotta take this guy out. And I don't know what happened because it's almost like, you know, we trained to kind of knock this dude out. And once we got into the later rounds, we didn't have no legs, we didn't have no strength. Like you said, Derek Cole, man, this dude went down. Yeah, okay. You can say that the count was a little slow, whatever the case may be. But man, you know, Tyson Fury has been here before. He's been on the ground, got knocked down, kind of did to Undertaker, you know, raise up, shake it off, okay. And it's almost like it woke him up. Like literally, I just had this conversation the other day. It's like, you know, he went down in the second fight the same way, got knocked down. I think in the first fight, if I'm not mistaken, he got knocked down and came and got up, you know what I'm saying, and continued the battle. It's almost like he got to get knocked down to say, okay, now I'm in the fight and now this is what I need to do. But, you know, the Wilder camp, man, was all over the place. I still, you know, my whole thing with Deontay Wilder over there is not really trying to recognize how good of a fighter that Tyson Fury is. I really want to say, man, that, you know, Tyson Fury has really put himself up there as being the preeminent heavyweight that he is, man. And this was a good shout out to this fight because it was a great fight. It was a good fight. You know what I'm saying? Probably one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen in quite some time. And the heavyweight division went to sleep. You know what I'm saying? We come from an era of watching Tyson. We come from an era of watching Holyfield and Lennox Lewis.
True.
And, you know what I'm saying? We watched the Klitschko brothers dominate for the better half of 2 decades. And then once we got these Tyson Fury fights, I think it gave and breathed some life back into one of the best divisions in boxing and seeing this trilogy, man. I don't know if we'll actually see another fight between these guys. It's probably not going to happen. But, you know, shout out to these guys for going in and competing the way that they did, man. Banks, I'm going to kick it over to you very, very quickly. I know you didn't get a chance to see the fight. I know you are a sports fan and a fan in general of just everything. Were you able, I don't know if you were familiar with the trilogy, man, and what happened with but do you appreciate, you know what I'm saying, what we saw out of these 3 fights between Wilder and Fury?
Well, for I'm hearing, yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I think, you know, it got a lot of talk. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. I fell asleep. I didn't even know they were fighting. I don't know, I must have been somewhere under a rock somewhere. But when I found out that what happened, you know, this happened right after, you know, like you said, the Alabama game. I'm like, when did this happen? And people are losing their mind over the fact that Wilder just, yeah, it ain't looking good from the home team, folk. So yeah, dude, I appreciated it as, you know, as a sports fan, as a fan all around, you know, just to see that it came to fruition that everyone was happy about it.
I mean, yeah, like I said, just to have a competitive outing, man, in boxing, man. Because, like I said, man, the sport of boxing, you know, Derek Cole, I'm gonna come to you and we're gonna move on. But, like, you know, I've been a big boxing fan my entire life. You know what I'm saying? You know, I come from an era of watching, you know, ABC, Wide World of Sports on Saturday night before pay-per-view. All of us can remember but when we had major championship fights on ABC, you know what I'm saying, before the big pay-per-view. You know, we saw guys like Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hitman Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. And then we moved into the whole era of pay-per-view and probably one my favorite fight of all time, of course, Mike Tyson. We watched him do what he did. and we watched the hometown hero Evander Holyfield do what he did. And then there was a lull in boxing. Of course, some of the lower weights, shout out to the Floyd Mayweathers of the world and the Oscar De La Hoyas for keeping the interest up, man. But MMA, I think, came in and kind of took some of the thunder away from the sweet science of boxing. And then we move forward into seeing, I think this has been one of the biggest things for the heavyweight division to get these Wilder Fury fights in this trilogy. So Derek, I guess before we move forward here, man, I just want you to give me a synopsis of how you feel about the sport, where we're going before we move on with the rest of the podcast.
Well, after this trilogy, it's just going to be hard for the heavyweight because I just don't see anybody taking big man down. Like you said earlier, Fury is a boxer. He's a big boxer too. I mean, and he don't have a problem laying them hands on you and laying that big body on you. So
6'7", 200 odd pounds. Yes,
right.
sir.
So I just think at this point, I think if he finds someone that is truly a contender, then hopefully that'll catapult the sport of the heavyweight side. But if not, then you're just gonna have Fury sitting on that mountain, just waiting on anybody to come up and try to topple him. And I just don't think it's gonna happen no time soon.
Absolutely. The Gypsy King, man, reigns supreme, man, retains the title, knocking Deontay Wilder out in the trilogy of that. So speaking of that, man, talking about all the L's that happened in Alabama, we're gonna move forward with the podcast, man, and get into what we want to talk about, man. Unfortunately, man, we didn't get a chance to segue into this from the last podcast. Banks, you got something to say before we move forward?
I do. You want to say about all the L's in Alabama. What about all the W's in Georgia? All together, collectively, Hawks, Braves, Falcons, Georgia. Well, Georgia don't really count as Atlanta, but we'll throw them in there since majority of the fan base is in Atlanta. I believe Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State, Albany State. They all took W's. And
Morehouse.
Morehouse, exactly. They all took W's.
Valdosta
State and Cairo High School, sir. They all took W's.
Everybody in the great state of Georgia took W's, man, this past weekend, man. Shout out to the great state of Georgia, where we live at, where we love, and what we do. We do this for the great state. We do this for the ATL, the metro area, and the surrounding areas, because we got to say surrounding areas because people live in the surrounding areas. Go ahead, Banks. What's up?
And I'm sorry. And shout out. I was up here doing double duties with this podcast. Congratulations to the San Francisco Giants for beating the Dodgers 1-0. They're up 2-1.
Okay. All right. A little bit of breaking news as we continue to do this podcast. So as we wrap up this podcast, man, we're gonna go into talking about our beloved Atlanta Falcons, man. Shout out to our Atlanta Falcons as they go across the pond, man. And this was, man, it was a very emotional podcast last week, man. As we talked about our Atlanta Falcons after they took an L against the Washington football team, and we were all in our feelings, man. And unfortunately, we weren't able to produce that podcast, man. But we were all in our feelings moving forward into going into this game, and all of us felt like that this Falcons team just was not going to get it together. I'm gonna go to you here first, Banks. We all collectively felt like this was just it. We were at the Q boys to men end of the road. This was it. After we saw what we saw with the Washington football team, we all felt like, hey, number one pick, here we come. We might not catch another win for the rest of the season. But we go over to London and something special happens. Banks, I'm going to kick it over here to you. Like I said, the last podcast that we tried to record, we all felt some type of way. We were all in our feelings about the way this was going with this season. So where do you stand now, Banks? We end up going across the pond. We end up winning against the lowly Jets. The lowly Jets, we beat them over across the pond in London. How do you feel now?
Well, you could call them the lowly Jets. We are the lowly Falcons. We went there. Shout out to the offensive line. They protected Matt Ryan. Did not give up one sack. when the previous week, New York Jets sacked the Tennessee Titans Tannehill 7 times. So I'll take any victory at this moment with this team, any single victory, and the ultimate victory I'm gonna embrace and I'm gonna bathe in is congratulations, Kyle Pitts, on your first touchdown and your first 100-yard game. Here's to many more, and
Man.
we're that's stepping. That's a step.
That's what's up. He be firing.
That's a
Look,
step.
Derek O'Banks be firing off prematurely, but we'll talk about that later. Look, man. So yeah, Falcons go over across the pond. We play the Jets. We take the win. It's always wonderful when we win as Falcons fans. First and foremost, I want to say this here, man. We are Falcons fans, man, and we want to see our team win. We want to see our team succeed, man. We were in our feelings, talking about them and moving forward, man. But man, it feels good to get a win. And Derrico, we talked about this, man. We all collectively talked about how bad the Jets were. The Jets are bad, man. They're very bad. So there was no reason why we didn't feel like the Falcons should go over to London and win this game because the Jets are not a very good football team. So I want you to tell everybody how you felt about getting this W and how significant it was for the Falcons to do this over in London.
You want to know how I feel? Oh,
that's what I asked you. I asked you how you felt.
I feel okay. Just okay. I mean,
that's better than
It's better than it was last week. You know what I'm saying? That's a significant improvement. You know what I'm saying? We got a W. You know, I didn't jump up and down celebrating the win like some Falcons fans were, like we had just beat the Saints or something. You know what I'm saying? We beat the Jets. I mean, we beat the Jets. Any given year, we're supposed to beat the Jets. So it wasn't like this was a historical, monumental W. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, when you're in a relationship, sometimes you feel like, hey, you got to take the little baby step wins and move forward. I'll say this. Upcoming schedule, I see them probably going down to Miami, beating Miami because Miami's what? Not a good team.
Good team. Okay. Let's not jump too fast into this.
Well,
let's continue.
I'm just painting this picture of we can't get too excited.
I ain't getting too excited. We're gonna celebrate this W. Banks, I'm gonna get to you here in just a moment, man. I just want to talk about a couple of things. Banks, like I said, you prematurely jumped into the segment, but I'm not mad. We'll talk about some great things that happened over there across the pond, man, over there at Tottenham Stadium in London. So look, fellas, and I'm gonna take it over to you here first, Banks, man. I want to talk about something that I'm proud of, man. I want to talk about something that I'm proud of that a lot of people in this city do not want to talk about and they aren't proud of. But I'm going to talk about it because I feel like I need to talk about it. I want to talk about my quarterback. Can I talk about my quarterback for just a minute, fellas? And I know it was the lowly Jets. I know it was the Jets. Derek, I know it was a team that we were supposed to beat. Banks, I know it was a team that, really, we didn't know what we were going to see coming into the game. I know the Jets had 7 sacks the previous week against the Titans or whatever the case may be against Tannehill. But I want to talk about my quarterback. I want to talk about Matt Ryan for just a second. Okay. Matt Ryan was 33 or 45, 342 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Okay. My quarterback. Okay. There's been a lot of flack and a lot of choose a side here in this city. Okay. A lot of people, Banks, we talk about this all the time. And Derek, we even talk about this all the time as well. We give a lot of flack to number 2 behind the center. But like I said, given the opportunity that he had on this past Sunday, he was clean. He didn't touch the ground. This offense, shout out to the offensive line too. Give a shout out to that offensive line for keeping that man upright and keeping that man to be able to manage the game and do what he needed to do. But I want to talk about my quarterback and what he was able to do and what he was able to accomplish. Banks, I'm going to kick it over to you here. Banks, are you still with me, brother?
I'm here.
Okay. Banks, how did you feel about our quarterback Matt Ryan and what he was able to accomplish over there in London, man. Because I had to specifically jump into that.
I was very proud to see what he did, especially on the heels of what he was coming off of social media, where people was already putting these narratives that he's not happy here and he wants to be traded. And his wife, Sarah, had to come in and squash all that nonsense, saying, what source told you that he's not happy? Because my source said he's not going anywhere. So guess what? He followed that up with an incredible game in London. Now, say what you will, whoever he faced, because according to this fan base, he's the worst quarterback we ever had. So kudos to Matt Ryan for doing what he had to do. And he hears it. I know he hears it. He hears everything that this fan base is spewing. And he's still going out there doing what he's supposed to do. Good for him.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Derek Cole, do you have anything you want to say about our
I
quarterback?
absolutely do. This is probably, if anybody has something bad to say about Matt Ryan after this game, it's just trash. Y'all know how I am about Matt Ryan. But when you look at who they threw out there as receivers, that right there took me to a point where you got to say, hey, they always talked about how other quarterbacks would throw the ball to anybody. And he had to prove that. I'm just sorry. He had to prove that whatever you put out there, that's what you got to deal with. And he dealt with that. I mean, he was out there pretty much flawless that game. And I'm glad you gave the O-line some props, because just like people give Matt Ryan flack, they always dragging that O-line through the mud. But I ain't see nobody talking about how the improvement of, I'm going to say it, Jalen Mayfield is continuing to improve.
Jalen Mayfield. Shout out to number 77, man.
You know
Shout
what I'm
out
saying?
to number 77.
If you don't hear his name, that means he's doing his job. But you don't hear nobody saying, hey, shout out to Jalen Mayfield. But yeah, the offensive line was stellar. Matt Ryan was stellar. The wide receivers were stellar. It was a whole total team effort except one play. But we're going to talk about that. And shout out to Arthur Smith. He called a hell of a game.
Hell of a game. He did, absolutely. I think he learned a lot from that Washington football game. One thing I can say about Arthur Smith, man, and I can't say about this from our previous regime, is that I think he really, really understood what happened in that Washington football game, against the Washington football team, and said, hey, we can't let this happen again. We've been told time and time again about the whole adjustment thing. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole and talk about adjustments and how we've been beaten several times on the previous regimes about coming out in the second half and not being able to adjust. There was a lot of adversity. We had a lot of things go on. I don't want to go too far into it, but Arthur Smith was able to say, hey, you know what? He settled everybody down. He said, hey, you know what? We have a lead. Let's continue to do what we do. Let's continue to do what we do well. And let's continue to see this thing through. So shout out to him and putting this together, Derek Cole. I'm glad that you hit that, man, because I thought I was the only person that saw that Arthur Smith was able to put this together and compose this team to keep pressing forward to get the W. Man, shout out to him using Cordell Patterson like he's been using the entire season. He has been the utility knife, the Swiss Army knife of this whole entire offense. And Banks, I'm going to hand it off to you because it's one thing I want to hand off to you. I'm handing this off to you, Banks. The unicorn. Hold on, wait. Oh no, I didn't freeze up. No, I didn't freeze up. I'm handing this off to you, Banks, because I want you to talk about this. The unicorn that we drafted at number 4 against the Jets, playing 9 receptions, 119 yards in his first career NFL TD. Kyle Pitts, number 8 for our Atlanta Falcons. Tell me how special this is and what a coming out party for this man was in this game.
Listen, Leo, I don't want to be this guy. You know how I felt about how he came into this league, drafting the tight end at number 4. You heard the pundits, you heard everybody say, oh, he's a unicorn. He's going to be the next guy going into the Hall of Fame, all this nonsense. Listen, I gave a toast to the guy, and I'm glad that he got his due. But let's be clear. When you got people like Zacchaeus, Sharp, Hardy, not Hardy, whoever other wide receiver was out the hill, it was probably Derico. I don't know. I mean, at this point, you had no choice but to throw
I did play
to
receiver.
Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I thought you did. You look like a guy just like you out there. But I digress. Listen, I give him his props. He did a good job. He did what he's
Oh
supposed to
my
do. He
God.
stepped up as a rookie and he did his thing, but he had no choice. His other
You
right hand man, Mr. Hurst, was dropping balls left and right. And still after all of that, like you said about our quarterback, he still threw for 342 yards. So after all that is said and done, it all started at the helm at number 2.
Hey man, so look, Matt Ryan moves forward into the all-time passing yards. He moves forward ahead of Eli Manning with throwing for those 342 yards. Hey, we take a W, man. Like I'm gonna say this, man, as we wrap this up, dude. I'm gonna make sure everybody understands this, man. I always want to see our team win. No matter how bad we think this team is, I always want to see this team win. I do. And to wake up Sunday morning after a late night watching that Wilder Fury fight, Derico, and to wake up early Sunday morning to sit up there and say, "Man, I'm up pretty early over here to see this," and for them to win, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic moving into the bye week, man. It's a lot to build on. I'm not, not to say that we because it's a long season. And like you said, Derico, we got the Dolphins coming up after the bye week. But I was just happy to see a W, man. As we close this thing out, and Banks, of course, I'm gonna give it back over to you. This was a lot to build on. Like you said, I'm glad you said Arthur Smith figuring this thing out. How do you feel about what we saw and what we have to build on moving forward?
I mean, we got to build on. We can pick and choose your position on the football field. We need help in every position. Derico said earlier that we're looking forward to the Dolphins. Well, I'm looking forward to the bye. That's next week, and they need some recharging. I guess I don't really like early buys, but I think this buy came at the right time for this team. This team needs to go back and look at some things, kind of reevaluate what happened against the Eagles. We know what happened against Tampa Bay. Tom Brady happened. The Washington football team, we let that one get away, in my opinion. You just beat 2 bad New York teams. We can build on that. So like I said, you got to crawl before you walk. Excuse me. You got teams coming up. You got Miami. You got divisional games coming, the Saints and Panthers. So I'm looking at it like this. Don't go jumping ahead. You are a young team. Well, not really a young team per se, but you are a team that with a young regime. That's the better word. Go out there
Absolutely.
and worry about the next task at hand, and that's getting yourself together by a week.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're gonna do that.
Absolutely. I must have been. It must be the Buffalo Trace. I thought I had passed it over to Derico, but Banks, thank you for closing that out and giving us your opinion. Giving us your opinion on that Jets game, man. Really, really much appreciated. Going on to Derico, man. Before we close this thing out, man. So your thoughts on building blocks moving forward with this team?
So the building block that we got to work on is scoring in the second half. That's a building block. We up 20-0, and we only scored 7 points in the second half. That's going to be a problem moving forward if we can't get that corrected. You can't go into the second half thinking because you blowing a team out that you can't keep your foot on the gas. So that's the building block right there. Number one is scoring points in the second half and defense stopping people in the second half, just like you did in the first half. So we tighten those two things up. I think we'll be okay in ball security.
Hey, guy, but ball security, really, ball security. Really, really quickly, Banks, we're going to go to you. We're going to close this thing out, man.
And special teams, we looking at you really hard. Like, can you please stop coming out the halftime locker room, giving up a big chunk of a return? Please. That's 2 weeks in a row. I'm looking at you.
I'm going to say this much, man. Before we close this out, man, look, I don't know, special teams coach, I don't know who trying to be cute and do this. We're going to kick it up high to the right and see if we can pin them back. Listen, man, kick the ball through the back of the end zone. It's a reason why the NFL moved this damn kickoff up. Kick the ball through the back of the end zone and let's, I don't care what y'all tried in practice. I don't. Okay, as a fan, I appreciate y'all trying to shake things up or whatever the case may be. But, man, kick that thing out the back of the end zone, man. Because you're right, Banks. 2 weeks in a row, we almost gave up TD. We gave up a TD after halftime to the Washington football team, which basically swung the momentum. You know what I'm saying? You take that TD away, we win that game. And we almost gave the Jets a damn TD on a coming back from the half kickoff. So special teams, stop being cute. Kick that thing through the back of the end zone, man, and let's play it from the 20, 25, and let's do what we do. For real. Stop being cute. Man, so on that note, fellas, guys, it's been a great podcast. Hopefully, let's keep our fingers and toes crossed, knock on wood, that we'll be able to get this out to everybody. Really, really quickly, before I give it to you all, I want to give a shout out to number one as we record this episode, Reggie McKee. Very, very special person to the Leo G podcast, man. He just celebrated another year around the sun, man. Shout out to my man Reggie McKee. A very, very happy birthday to him. Our capo and our president of our illustrious SG Footy Mob. We didn't get a chance to talk about Atlanta United today, but we'll definitely come back and talk about them as we move into the stretch of the playoffs. We just had a significant thing happen with Joseph Martinez, and we talked about that a little bit on the last episode that we tried to record. But I just wanted to give a shout out to my man, Reggie McKee. Also, I want to give a shout out to, the Falcons played, we talked about this game. The Falcons played in London. 7 years ago, we played in London. We played the Detroit Lions. I had the opportunity to go over there and watch that game at Wembley Stadium. It's an awesome opportunity, man. I tell anybody that's an NFL fan, if you had the opportunity to go over to London and check a game out, man, you won't be disappointed. You will not be disappointed, man. This is the reason that the NFL keeps going back year after year after year, man. I think this is like their 12th or 13th year, probably longer, of going over there and highlighting games, man. You got to make, if you have a favorite NFL team, go over there and check them out and go over there. Even if you just you want to go over there and check out an NFL game over there, man. It's absolutely cool. It's something that I'm telling you want to do. Banks, Derrico, man, if we get a chance to go over there in the next, I don't know, it took 7 years for us to get back, but the next time, guys, if we're still doing this, man, we all need to go. COVID kind of messed up a lot of plans for this, man. I wanted to get back over there to see this game, man, but you definitely got to go to London and check out a game over there. You definitely do. It's a wonderful time. And the reason I bring that up, man, shout out to ATL Falcons UK, man. Followers of the Leo G podcast show and followers of us, a big group of Falcons fans in the UK now following us on Twitter, man. So shout out to them guys, man. And I'm going to try to collaborate with them, man, to see if they can get on our podcast, man, because they got a podcast over there in the UK. Big Falcons fans. They did a lot of stuff, man. Some guys from Manchester, they went down for the game on this past Sunday, man. So I just wanted to shout that out, man. And I'm going to go ahead and give the shout outs for the show. You can always follow the Leo G Show on Facebook. And you can also follow the Leo G Show on Twitter, the Leo G Show, the number one. But I wanted to give that before I gave it up to you guys. So first and foremost, man, I thank you guys for doing this late night for me with this podcast. I'm going to give it over to you first, Banks. Let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
You can find me at BabyBanks80 at the Twitter and Instagram. Or you can find me on Facebook at Antoine Jarrell Banks. Feel free to say hello. And please subscribe to this show, please. And shout out to also to the Atlanta Braves for a huge victory today at Truist Park. They are now up 2-1.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Shout out to them Braves, man. On the next episode, man, hopefully we'll have them going forward. Derrico, give everybody how they can get up with you, man.
All right, you can catch me on Facebook at Stacy D. Derrick Cole. You can catch me on the gram at Derrico_Virgo. And on the Twitter, you can catch me at VSU96SDD. Leo G, we appreciate you having us. And if I haven't said it, thank you for putting the brother name on the show. You know, that means a lot to us. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that.
Hey man, you know, it took a minute, man, to get our feet, man. You know, we've been doing this for a minute. This episode 48, man. And like I said, fingers crossed, I hope we can get this out to the people, man. But I appreciate you guys, man. I really, really do. We talk about this. We've always talked about our teams and about sports, man, because we have a genuine love for this, man. You know what I'm saying? We have a special relationship and special tie to this city, man. And we make this happen, man. And I just like putting this out so everybody can hear our thoughts and opinions because we are true fans. ATL fans get a bad rap sometimes. We do. Like collectively, you know, I know you, Banks, I know you, Derrico. We're true fans, but collectively as a whole, man, this city gets a bad rap when it comes to sports and fans. So this was one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast, man. There's a lot of podcasts out there, man, but I wanted to make sure that we represented us as true fans from this city so people can understand how we really, really feel. Not these bubblegum fans that just moved here like 5 years ago or that just picked up what's going on here 2 years ago. We've been doing this for a long time. Don't get mad at me, fellas, when I say this, man, but we've been rocking with these teams for over 30 and 40 plus years. We've been doing this for quite some time. I can say that. So, you know, we're true to this. We're not new to this. We're true to this. I know this sounds a little cliche-ish, yeah. But we're really amped in and tuned in to these teams here in this city. I can speak for these brothers that are on this podcast with me. I can speak for Banks. I've known this man for probably 2 decades, and he's been rocking with these teams. As long as I've known him, he's been rocking with these teams. I've known my man Derrico here not as long. We've known each other now for at least the last 2 or 3 years, but he's been rocking with these teams for quite a long time here in this city, man. So we do this, man, because like I said, man, we here and we're not going anywhere. We're not. So, man, like my man Banks said, man, subscribe to the show. We're going to continue to do this for y'all. And we're going to be out, man. It's another edition of the Leo G Show, man. That's what's up.